What if your suffering isn't some cruel mistake? What if it's a message? Not from the universe, not from God, but from life itself, demanding something more from you. This video isn't going to give you tips on how to be happy. It's going to do something far more dangerous. It's going to ask you to listen to your pain, not to escape it, not to fix it, but to understand it. Because buried inside your pain might be the only thing that could ever set you free. Purpose. And one man proved this, not through theory, but by surviving the unthinkable. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist imprisoned in 4 Nazi concentration camps, found meaning where there was none. He lost his wife, his family, his freedom. Yet he walked out of that nightmare with one of the most powerful psychological insights of the 20th century. And if you're feeling lost, empty, broken, his discovery might just change how you see your entire life. Before the war, Frankl was a respected psychiatrist in Vienna. He had patients, a thriving practice, a manuscript he was desperate to protect. But in 1942, he and his family were arrested. In the camps, the manuscript was burned. His parents were murdered. His pregnant wife never made it out. Strip away your name, your career, your possessions. Strip away your safety, your dignity, your future. What's left? Frankl called it the last of the human freedoms, the freedom to choose one's attitude, even in the face of suffering. He watched people starve, freeze, get beaten to death. He saw men trade their last scrap of bread for a kind word. He saw others collapse inward and die, not from hunger, but from hopelessness. Frankl realized, if your suffering is meaningless, you will not survive it. But if it has meaning, even if it's just to stay alive one more day for someone you love, then suffering becomes bearable. Not easier, not pleasant, but bearable. And it was in this realization that Frankl began to understand something deeper. We don't suffer because life is cruel. We suffer because life is asking something of us, and most of us have stopped answering. Today, you're told the purpose of life is happiness. You're told to eliminate pain, to optimize your emotions, to chase bliss like it's a product you can download. But here's what no one wants to admit, that's a lie. Frankl watched this lie crumble in the camps. The ones who lived for happiness, gone. The ones who lived for comfort, or fairness, or pleasure, gone. Only those who had something to live for survived. Not something to enjoy, but something to serve. And that should terrify you. Because if your only anchor in life is comfort, what happens when it's taken from you? If you believe life owes you joy, what happens when joy doesn't show up? You will collapse, just like they did. But if you can suffer, consciously, intentionally, with purpose, you become someone else. Someone the world cannot break. Most people are waiting for a sign. They think one day, meaning will knock on the door like a package from Amazon. But Frankl's greatest insight was this: meaning is not something you find, it's something you give. In the camps, Frankl noticed a pattern. The men who gave away their last crust of bread, the ones who consoled others, who kept teaching, praying, singing, they didn't have meaning. They created it. They carved it out of hell. And you, watching this, have that same power. Meaning is forged in the fire of your suffering. It begins the moment you stop asking, why is this happening to me, and start asking, what does life want from me right now? What does your grief demand of you? What does your depression need you to confront? What is your pain asking you to become? Because here's the most painful truth. There may never be justice for your suffering. No apology, no explanation, no closure, but you can still give it purpose. You can make it part of a larger story, one where you become the kind of person who transforms pain into wisdom, and that choice is what makes you human. Frankl said, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. You might hear that and think, but he was Viktor Frankl. I'm just me. I'm not strong enough. But strength didn't keep Frankl alive. Meaning did. He imagined himself after the war, giving lectures on the psychology of suffering. He dreamed of seeing his wife again, even when he knew she was likely dead. He found meaning in noticing a sunrise behind barbed wire, in remembering a line of poetry, and silently refusing to hate. None of that erased his pain, but it gave him space to endure it. You don't need to feel strong. You need to feel responsible. Responsible to something, to someone, to a future you haven't seen yet. Because if you don't take responsibility for your pain, something else will. Addiction, bitterness, numbness, rage. But if you do, if you step into the fire and say, "This will not be for nothing," then you begin to walk the same path Frankl did. And that path leads somewhere very few people ever go. Peace. There's something you're not being told. You think your pain is a barrier between you and the life you want. But what if it's a mirror? What if your pain shows you who you are, and who you are not yet brave enough to become? What if the thing that broke you actually introduced you to the parts of yourself that were still asleep? This isn't about finding silver linings. This isn't about pretending everything happens for a reason. Some things don't. Some things are just cruel, but you can still choose what to do next. And that's the only part of life you ever truly control. Frankl didn't survive because he had a reason to. He survived because he chose one every day. And in doing so, he didn't just stay alive. He became alive. So what will you choose? You don't need to change your life right now. You don't need to fix anything. But you do need to ask the question Frankl asked in Auschwitz. What is life asking of me right now? If you sit with that question long enough, you might hear something terrifying and honest and beautiful. Your suffering is not your identity, but it is your invitation to become someone deeper, braver, more useful, not in spite of your pain, but through it. And maybe that's all purpose really is. Saying yes to the responsibility your pain is begging you to carry. Now let me ask you one final question. If your pain could speak, what would it say you were born to do?